Good evening, Thomas. This is the last of Nerdom, and on for another week. We're ready to roll into our next bunch of picks and see where we land. This week, we were going to cover. We're going to go over Nolan, redo our Nolan episode because I had made a horrific mistake about our sound. It just wasn't right, and it messed it up, and it was just garbage. So we couldn't even publish it. So.
Yeah, file it under growing pains.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, yeah. We're that's what happens when I try to reach and stretch too much and not master the first thing. Just record it, Grandpa, for my.
Well, as a toddler, we try to run like the Flash, and we kind of ended up in
we did
a bit of a tumble, but yeah, the great thing about the internet is you can try it again.
That's right. Yeah. So this week we were gonna cover if we had some time. We had our comic book picks, which are being provided solely by you this week because I'm trying to catch up on some stuff on some comic book titles, and next week I'll come with that some actual ones. But I did see some of the ones that you had in store for us today, and they do look good. And then if we have some time, we'll do our YouTube pick, and then if we have some time, we'll swing into Moon Knight. And but to kind of kick it off, I think what do you have this week for comic books that you wanted to look at that you were reading this week?
There's kind of interesting ones. It was a good week for comic books last week. And of course, comic book day is Wednesday, so we're a bit early for this week. But yeah, last week one of them was the Hulk Grand Design. That first one there, yeah. The cool thing, there was a comic book put out a year or two ago. I think it was maybe even 3, where Ed Piskor went over the history of the X-Men in I think it was 2 big comic books, where he kind of did it in sort of an indie art style that kind of just went over the history of X-Men. And so his good buddy Jim Rugg did the Hulk here, Hulk Grand Design. So basically the first issue is a bit oversized. I think it's about 40 pages of content in it, and it covers like the first couple of decades of Hulk, and it's he kind of mimics the art style of various artists through the run of Hulk, and kind of does sort of like a modern art style, sort of like Andy Warhol, sort of throw it all together, kind of smorgasbord of art. Too bad I wish we had some pages to show you, but yeah, if you're in the comic book store and want to thumb through it, it's some great stuff. Ed Piskor does a variant cover of the first issue as well, but yeah, it's really fun stuff. And if you're familiar with the history of the Hulk, it'll be fun to kind of go through it. And he even includes, like, within the history, he also includes like the TV series, and he does a mock-up of a kind of an ad for the whole television series within the comic book to put it within the time frame that he's covering for the Hulk. But yeah, it's not an essential read as far as if you're like a Hulk comic book reader that wants to follow in on the storylines of the Hulk. You're not gonna miss out on a big story. But if you're kind of interested in something that someone's kind of going out of the box as far as the art and everything, and the concept of a comic book, it's a kind of a fun read to kind of go over.
Yeah, these I love these the artwork. Oh man, I
Mhm.
need to. This makes me want to
Yeah.
go in and go buy a few of these, and just for the variants, or order them or try to. But that's probably too late by
Yeah.
now.
No,
Limit my luck.
I don't think it's like a huge seller, so I think you'd probably look out. But yeah,
Oh,
uh the my Jim Rugg and Ed Piskar does a YouTube channel. This isn't on our recommend list, but it probably should have been for this week. They
mhm.
do a channel called Cartoonist Kayfabe, where both of them kind of pick like an old comic book and cover it from cover to cover, kind of go through and talk about the art and what they thought originally when they originally read it. So yeah, I'm familiar with those guys from that, and they also do their own independent comic books. We talked about Ed Piskor a few weeks back when we talked about Red Room. He did the Red Room comic book that I talked about. Yeah, that one. The We kind of went over the graphic novel that collected the first few issues, and his series has come back as well. The second series for Red Room. It's sort of like over the top gore. Basically, the Red Rooms is like the dark web, where they have these rooms where they kill people, and
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
But yeah,
And then and then the joy goes from there.
yeah, I wanted to start this on a lighter note. So
Right. Yeah. Well, anyway, it's still these are like once you break into any of this stuff, it's connected tangentially over here and over here, and there's some borrowing over
Mhm.
there, and it reminds
Yeah,
you of this. Just like last week with the
yeah,
anti-hero kind of
hmm yeah,
undercurrent that
but
is
yeah.
or was the
Mhm.
Punisher, or is the Punisher. But yeah,
But yeah, I've always loved independent comic books, and Jim Rugg and Ed Piskor is like the today's big names for independent comic books. So
I yeah I need
uh
once again adding more to my list to read to catch up on.
yeah. But yeah, speaking of independent comic books, if you go to X-Cellent #2, there you go. This is done by the writer Peter Milligan and the artist Michael Allred.
Okay.
Michael Allred is, if I had a top 5 artist, he would be in the mix there. He originally
Oh
did
wow.
Madman comic books back in the 90s. He's been a super favorite of mine, and this is a new series. Basically, they did a version of the X Force that it consisted of these members, and got this new series called X-Cellent that kind of follows up with these really strange social media obsessed superheroes. I was, when
Huh.
I was reading it, I kind of wondered a new if a new reader would be a little confused. I think they would be, but the
Yeah.
artwork is such a great artwork that if anything, it would enthrall you just by the artwork alone. But yeah,
Sounds
he's
very reminiscent of a very familiar series that's coming back this summer. Kind of a little bit,
but yeah.
or at least at least one aspect from the for not from the comic books, maybe, but more
Mhm,
for the series that there was made in its
mhm,
image. The Boys,
mhm.
what I'm talking
Uh-huh.
about. Uh,
Yeah.
but you see, this is good though.
Yeah, I really enjoy it, and again, it's sort of a little over the top. There's a
Right.
lot of gore. There's gore in it, so I don't know if the kiddos would be
Right.
exactly
Maybe
the
not.
aim for it. But
Yeah.
yeah, teenagers would definitely enjoy it. Yeah, the next one I was going to go over is DC versus vampires.
Okay.
And now this is issue number 6. So um if you haven't picked up on this yet, you might want to wait for the graphic novel to come out, which will eventually come out. It's a 12 issue series. It's sort of a alternate universe where vampires are taking over. They've turned Green Lantern into a vampire. They've turned Wonder Woman, and they've turned Superman, and Batman and his family is trying to combat them.
Okay.
Him
Okay.
and Green Arrow and such. James Tinian the fourth is the writer, and James Tinian the fourth. To me, he could do no wrong. He's a great writer.
I
Him
need to
and
read
Matthew
this.
Rosenberg is writing, and Matthew Rosenberg is kind of hit and miss, but with James Tinian, he's pretty solid. So, but yeah, DC versus vampires. If you want a really good vampire story and superhero story, you can't go wrong with this. And again,
Right.
unfortunately, I recommend this halfway through the series. So again, I think what they normally do with the 12 issue series is they break up the graphic novel between the first 6 issues and the last 6 issues.
Volume
But
one and then
yeah,
volume two.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and then they'll probably do like a deluxe 12 issue uh, graphic novel. But yeah, if it sounds interesting, keep that in your radar and
I
look out
will.
for those graphic novels in
I'm
on
I'm gonna have to
Amazon.
revisit this one. That definitely reminds me of the Marvel version of it, but with
Mhm.
zombies, where they just take
Uh-huh.
over,
Yeah,
and it just
yeah,
like from beginning to end, it's just
yeah,
everything,
yeah. And
nothing comes back.
back
It
back
was
in the
good.
day, yeah, back in the day, I used to stay away from these alternate universe things because I was like, well, this doesn't really play a part of the current timeline, so why am I interested? Because this doesn't affect my characters that I like, currently. So, but but now I'm like, if you tell a great story, I'm there.
Yeah, I'm
Even if
pretty.
it's sort of like the multiverse thing.
Yeah, and they did. I think they replayed that storyline, and this isn't necessarily the series that I was
Mhm,
talking about with Thomas. I don't think it is,
mhm.
but they revisited that storyline in the animated What If,
Mhm. Yeah,
what that they
yeah,
did.
that,
I
yeah,
I enjoyed it. It was good. It was good. I
yeah.
like that they are, as long as they keep revisiting and doing justice to storylines like that, I'll keep watching. But I do
Mhm.
remember that is one of the
Yeah,
storylines. But I
yeah.
really like that. I think they did the What If thing. That's one of the rare points of praise that I'll give
Mhm.
Marvel, modern day Marvel for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the last one is the Batman Beyond the White Knight.
Okay, this,
Uh
this is interesting.
Sean, yeah, Sean Murphy has been doing his own sort of his own world of Batman alternate universe style. I believe the first volume was One Night, but basically this is the first issue of a new series. Batman has been put in prison for the stuff that he's done, and he kind of helps out with prison riots and so forth. And basically, someone has broken into his cave and found his Batman Beyond tech, which, if you're familiar with the Batman Beyond, there's like a futuristic Batman suit, and that's in this universe. It's been stolen, and Batman decides to break out of prison to figure out who's stolen this suit.
Okay, very cool. I'm
I
gonna
won't
check that
say
one out.
too much there. If you're kind of interested, the art style is great. Sean Murphy both writes and draws it. And But yeah, if it kind of seems kind of interesting, there's Batman right there, kind of grizzled and in prison. But yeah, it's
I do
it's
like that artwork.
yeah, the Sean Murphy is a great artist, and that original series, White Knight. I believe it's one of the best comic book stories, that's modern comic book stories to read. So I would definitely recommend it. Of course, he's done. This is the third sequel to, or the second. Well, he's done 3 volumes of it. The White
Okay.
Knight. I forget what the second one was, and this is the third one. There's also been some spin-offs from it. There was one for Harley Quinn that came out that was co-written by him and drawn. But yeah, he's I believe he's kind of moved on to, I think he's one of the guys that went on to Substack, or maybe he's doing crowdfunding or something. But yeah, he's still tied to DC with these his White Knight series. But yeah, he's one of those new guys within comic books that are definitely someone to watch.
Doing justice. All right, I'll make sure we include that in our rundown for sure. Okay, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, I think that comes up to that hit all of us. Which and again, next week I'm going to come loaded with a lot more comic book ones. I think we might do the next episode, depending upon how it goes, more comic book centric again. We'll find an arc for sure. There's a lot coming up too, but in that vein, I think are you ready to go on to our Nolan recap?
Yeah.
And then we'll just start in this because I love how we just jump into it. Did you want to cover that article first that you had mentioned? Because I have not read that, or do you want to save that for when it comes up in our?
Well, basically, there's been a bit of a controversy about him. With Inception, basically, there's an anime that they found. Is it Paprika? It's basically the ideas and concepts from that anime. I haven't seen that anime to be honest, but the anime they kind of spotlight it and say that there's certain scenes and ideas that come directly from that anime that he replicates in Inception.
Interesting.
And if you scroll through it, they show some visual comparisons to various things.
This is not the only time that this kind of storyline has been redone. There's another film that I know, a friend of mine who's a very big fan. He's actually a mutual friend of ours, but he mentions, this is a long time ago, like probably years ago. I'm trying to recall off memory, but I do know that this storyline, this type of story in a story has been done before for sure. But how it's executed is telling for all, of course. But I'll have to. This begs. Maybe we'll have to circle back around and check out that anime if we want to open that window.
Yeah, that
maybe
would be kind of
future.
interesting.
Because I do have an IOU for us for the second volume of Planets, for sure.
Yeah, and and it's not to say that he ripped this off, so to speak. There's I mean, there's so many coincidences, and I've I've thought of ideas of something, and then I see a movie that's like a exact copy of what I thought, and I was like, well, obviously they didn't rip me off because I didn't put it out anywhere, but
for sure.
But yeah, there's the obviously the idea that two people can come up with the same ideas.
Oh yeah, well, like again, these are kind of things like where it's good artists. I don't know what the saying is, but it's something to the effect of they steal, or good artists steal or copy or whatever. Dream sequence or whatever. David Lynch. The Wachowski siblings. Horrible pronouncing it. Jordan Peele. I don't I don't know about Jordan Peele. Is that familiar? That's anyway, doesn't matter. That'll get us
Right.
off track in a whole other realm. Interesting. Okay.
Right,
Okay.
right,
Yeah.
right,
No,
right.
I
Yeah,
had heard.
yeah, and you
I'm
know,
no stranger to hearing criticism that the Inception has been done before, or
mhm,
kind of the story of, like I said, in a
yeah,
meta to the third degree or third layer, whatever. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, and
well,
even if Inception isn't completely a new concept or idea, I think the world would be poorer without that movie in
I don't agree with
existence.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, kind of back into that, and I love Nolan because across the board, and it's no stranger that I'm a Nolan fan, and I think it's safe to say that you're a Nolan fan too. We like what we like on from what he's done, but I like how he has he has the big name movies, that show that he
yeah,
can manage big names and big storylines too. uh,
mhm,
on this, and whether that be a comic book storyline with big names with that, or it be a little bit more noir or pedestrian kind of murder mystery
mhm.
type as we kind of roll through his and I believe he has 11 film credits. And the one thing I didn't do was I didn't pull up his bibliography on or
Yeah,
filmography on IMDb while I'm
yeah.
talking here, but
In while
Inception is in.
you're
Yeah,
yeah,
I
while
just was
you're
gonna
go
kind of
ahead.
put a cap in, and I'm sure we'll have more to say on Inception, but Inception is in my top three for him for sure.
Mhm,
Uh, for me personally, for
yeah.
that. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, I was going to just say that. Yeah, he's what he deals with as far as ideas and stuff can be sort of thrown into comic books slash pulp slash science fiction. But he goes at it at a more realistic approach in that it's not like a pure drama, but
No,
there's this weight of realness that he tries to weigh his stuff down with. Like I think we originally focused on our original uh episode on the Batman series, and I think there's, especially like with the Batman Begins, there's this real sense that it's really a drama. The real standout is that Batman's in this Batman costume. All the other characters are real life characters. There's off there's the Ra's al Ghul. He's not in a costume. Um, yeah, there's in his origin, him going on. It kind of just there's like a really groundedness to the story. There's not like
there
this
is.
over the top, bing bang boom,
Yeah,
that comic book movies can have.
yeah. He
That
knows
this has.
he. Yeah, I agree. He knows how to tell a story, and he has. There's like his way of telling it, and I would describe it as being like non-traditional linear.
Mhm,
When you get down to what he's really known for, like the
mhm,
that style, and it's I don't want to say that it's played out yet because I don't think it is, but
mhm,
how he has done it has been really really fascinating to watch, and I agree. He does bring
mhm,
a grounding to the storyline and make the story
mhm,
fit, make it work with whoever the actors are, whether they're big name or no name, all of
mhm.
that. I would agree. I would agree for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's to kind of speak to the Batman, and we can go into this however we do, but
Mhm,
Inception. I don't know if you wanted to do like your top favorites or whatever, or your least favorites, but the Batman. I guess the Bat. It's going to start there because the strata of my picks as far as
mhm,
like what I like from him and the
mhm,
pantheon of his 11 movies that he's directed have been like Batman definitely is in each one of my strata for sure. Like he's
mhm.
in the top, he's in the mid, and he's on and one of them is on the lower one for sure.
Yeah.
Just for me personally, and I
Yeah.
believe that his Batman that was based on the Nightfall
Mhm,
uh
mhm.
storyline with Bane and
Yeah.
whatnot.
Yeah. if I was, I haven't thought about it prior to our recording, but I think I would put top five. I would probably put Inception, uh, Dark
And
Knight, The
Dark Knight.
Prestige, Interstellar, and
Yes.
Memento as my top five.
Nice. I mean, I didn't do it by like top one and whatever. Like, I just, like,
Mhm,
you pretty much hit all of my top ones too, like the top half, like the top six are,
mhm,
Interstellar, Inception, Tenet, although that's my thing. That's debatable.
mhm.
Memento, Dark Knight, and then Prestige, would be in my top six, not in that order, but
Mhm.
just kind
Yeah,
of circling. These are the cream of the crop,
yeah.
like those. I
Mhm,
would agree. Yeah, that for sure. Like that, I would say like that for the Batman films. Sorry, I'm just looking for my notes. Like it's easily Dark Knight is one of the
mhm.
king of the Batman films for sure. Like, and
Yeah,
it's up there with your. And again, I'm not saying one is better than the other, but just in the sheer
yeah,
great delivery of it, like it brings to
yeah.
mind like the classic Keaton Batman movie,
Mhm,
that film, just
mhm.
for weight of whatever, and then also
Yeah.
the Lego one, like where it's just, yes, it's completely different, but it's fun and happy,
Yeah.
and it's just good. But
Yeah.
that's my personal thing. What did you think
Right.
about the other two Batman films? Like, as
Well,
far as like
I
how,
think I think the Batman Begins, I think every first superhero movie is kind of weighed down by its origin story.
I'd agree with that.
On the on the original, like say Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, the origin stories that everybody knows. It's almost
Yeah,
like you could probably skip that that movie and just jump into the story like the newer Spider-Man movies have done.
yep.
But yeah, that first movie is kind of weighed down by the origin story, and I don't know. I don't know if this is blasphemy, but I think Ra's al Ghul isn't all that interesting of a character, bad guy.
Uh,
But
I mean,
I
it's
did enjoy the movie, but he's not like the strongest villain in the world.
I, no, I would agree. I think I don't find fault with what you just said. I agree. To me, honestly, Batman Begins is on the low end of the list
Mhm.
for Nolan films, and certainly in the pantheon of Batman films, it may or may not rate higher than, I don't know, when they got cartoony with the Batman series in the late '90s or whatever.
Yeah.
Like after the success that was Batman, we didn't see that again for a while. Where
Mhm.
like it was just like we lost the seriousness, and it just became Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jim Carrey and the star power there, and it was just like,
Mhm.
oh, by the way, Batman. Not to
Yeah.
say that those weren't fun in their own right. They're all fun, but not when you think of a serious Batman, very dark. Like, well, again, the Dark Knight. I mean, I don't think
Yeah.
anybody's going to argue with you. But like, I have I've talked to people that put Batman Begins higher than the Dark Knight Rises, and I disagree with that. Like,
Mhm.
I think it tried to do too much, but but it was still good for what it did for the storyline, and
Mhm.
as it went, it wasn't the
Yeah.
strongest
Mhm.
Batman film of all time. But
Mhm.
I agree with you that the origin stories are kind of like, meh.
Yeah.
I mean, when you
Yeah.
get down to it, and nobody did anything wrong per se, but it's just like
Mhm.
you're not quite sure. You're showing up. I would put it toward the lower list of Nolan,
Mhm.
on that list for
Yeah.
sure. I enjoy The Dark Knight Rises. I actually didn't really like that a lot when it came out. It was just like it was just so long and whatnot. But as the years have gone
Mhm.
on, I appreciate it for what it did. I used to not like the Bane villain character, like the way that Tom Hardy did him with the voice and thing. That was somewhat
Mhm.
controversial as a choice.
Mhm.
But I
Yeah.
think as time went on, it grew. It kind of grew on
Mhm.
us. It did. It
Yeah.
grew. It grew on me for sure. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
enjoy it. It's a good take. It's a solid.
Mhm.
It was very sprawling what it
Right.
did to pack
Right.
that storyline into the end conclusion, and that was just. I think it was longer than the other two, but
Oh, I
I don't.
think so. Yeah. Yeah. Dark Knight Rises. Yeah. When I first saw it, I wasn't. very enamored with it. But yeah,
I
on
was.
the new viewing of it, I did enjoy it a lot better than I did originally. But yeah, it's got some moments. I enjoy all the characters in it. There there is, I think, in our original podcast I did mention this. There's a scene towards the end where Bane and Batman faces off in the street during the day, and in the bright light of the day with
Right.
them in costume, it almost looked like they were cosplay, a couple of cosplayers
Yeah.
facing off in the street, and that that was
It
that kind of threw me off. That could
it
have just been me
it did
myself.
feel, the back half of the movie did feel a little rushed. It's funny because it's this big longer movie, but the scenes that they were trying to catch up to were kind of, it did feel like they were trying to rush. That's sort of like, okay, we got to put a pin in it somewhere.
Yeah.
And then of course it ended famously with him basically handing off the legacy of Batman to Joseph Gordon-Levitt,
Yeah.
which nothing ever came of that, and I regret that. I really, that's probably one of the very rare sequel kind of extensions of the thing. I don't know what the universe would look like if we had a Joseph Gordon-Levitt as a Batman, but I'll tell you, I'll say this, and I haven't seen the current Batman, but I would say this, and I would entertain this until I see it. I shouldn't, and I'm not rendering judgment on it, but
Mhm.
nobody can tell me that a Joseph Gordon-Levitt Batman would be any worse than a Robert Patterson Batman.
Yeah.
And there would probably be points in my favor to say that it would be better, but maybe I don't
Yeah.
know. But we'll
Yeah.
see until I see that. But
Yeah.
I'm
And I think yeah, I think
not
the
going to
new
rush to see it.
Batman comes out in a couple of weeks or so on HBO Max. So maybe we'll do an episode on that.
Yeah, we'll do 5-15 minutes on it and catch up on it, see what we thought. Like I think we both agreed that we weren't. It, I've got a lot on my plate anyway, and it has nothing to
Mhm.
do with loving or hating Batman or anything like that. But I just don't have any desire to go to a theater and see a 3-hour movie that I'm not for sure about.
No, yeah, yeah,
When
exactly.
I'm not going to do that. Just
Yeah, yeah.
I do not have that in my. I'm old enough to know what I'll stand and what I won't stand,
Mhm.
and that's just not
Right,
what I've been.
right.
Kind of like,
And if I was going to go to a theater to see a 3 hour movie, it would be something like Lord of the Rings or something that would garner a 3 hour movie, whereas a
yeah,
Batman movie should not be, in my opinion, a 3 hour movie. Of course, like I said, we'll visit the movie and have our final say on it.
yeah,
We'll never condemn a movie without actually seeing it.
yeah,
Something we'll never do on this program.
yeah. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's just I just don't. I have no desire to go. I don't have time to go see. Like if it. Well,
Mhm.
maybe we'll be lucky enough and we'll be able to be paid to do this thing, and then that would be a different story. But
Right.
until then, I don't know about you, but I
Yeah.
got bills to pay, and I got to do
Mhm.
it the same way everybody else is
Yeah.
by working. But
Yeah.
having said that,
Yeah.
it,
Oh.
it's
Uh-huh.
it's a good. I'm sure it's good in its own right.
Yeah.
Regardless, I'll have
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
We'll
Oh, and
see.
a fun fact for to tie into the Batman movies. The movie Memento, there is a doctor in that movie. There's like some flashbacks to a character that goes to a doctor, and that very same doctor is the doctor that Bruce Wayne goes to see in Dark Knight Rises,
I did
which
not.
is a guy from Rescue 911, Thomas Lennon. If
Huh.
you He's the guy with the parrot and the hat there. Towards Yeah. Yeah, Thomas
Interesting.
Lennon.
I did not know that.
That's that's sort of like a fun fact between the two
Huh.
two
Reno
films.
911. That's awesome. That was a funny show. That was a funny show. Night
But yeah,
Museum. I
he
love it.
he played.
That's he was on that too. Huh.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a writer on that. Yeah, that's cool. He was Dangle.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
man, that's awesome.
But yeah,
Good hook.
yeah,
Good
he's
hook.
yeah, yeah. It's like when I watched I rewatched the Batman movies, and then I was going back and watching some of the older Chris Nolan movies, and
Right,
I
right.
was watching Memento, and I saw him, and I was like, oh, that's the doctor.
Yeah, yeah. speaking of that, like since we kind of covered the bottom end of the scale, I think it's which in going back like Batman Begins, unless you want to say otherwise, like it's not on the bottom half of just call it the bottom half of Nolan's creations. That kind of lines us up for the next. Like this might be a poor segue, but Following was one of his, and I know. Yeah, I mean, to me, like, and I'll just kind of truncate it with this. Like, I did see it, and it's Nolan through and through, but it's a lot rougher cut. It introduces you to the mind of Nolan and how he does the non-linear, non-traditional storylines. But I think that a far more mature one, which we've already covered, and it's in our top list, is Memento. Memento is like that realized, that style realized.
Yeah.
And Following is like black and white.
Yeah.
It's bear with me here. I had just a couple notes on it.
No. And while you're looking, I haven't actually seen Following, so this is all Mike's take on it.
Yeah, I just think it. Well, I mean, if you see it, it's more beginner Nolan. It's Whereas, what did I say? I said
Is one of those
like,
that I did want to watch eventually, but yeah.
Yeah, it's still good. It's still good in its own right. It's just when you compare it to like when you've been spoiled by Memento, like Memento is essentially the definitive Nolan. I wrote like a college level course in Nolan is what I wrote for how he does his storylines, kind of like M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that him, how you kind of get the feel for him. Although I would argue that I don't think the way that Nolan does his movies and his storylines when he has full control, I don't think that it's as played out as like an M. Night Shyamalan movie. I think that's a way more overplayed because you kind of expect like there's going to be some kind of trap door here, and you're going to fall through it, and you're either going to see it coming or not. Not to spoil anything, but that I don't think that's unfair to say about him. But Nolan, case in point, Tenet is a little bit more controversial, I think, of all his films because I think people are still digesting it, whether they really like it or not. I've heard more negative than I have positive, but that hasn't dissuaded me because I still put it in the top half. Of my list.
Yeah. Well, Tenet it doesn't. It's an interesting movie. I enjoy it. I wouldn't put it in my top Nolan movies, but yeah, I wouldn't put it in the bottom either. It's very non-character centric.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But yeah, the characters are really not the important part of the story.
No,
it's the concepts.
Yeah, it is. It really, it's kind of like, it's almost as if, and it kind of brings sci-fi into it. I think it's Asimov. I believe it was Asimov or Clark. Excuse me. No, Asimov. Like where and Clark to a certain degree, you don't read those authors for the character development. They don't do character development. They don't do anything like that. Especially Asimov. It's just about the world, the story, the era, the pitch. There are some characters, but their character development is not anywhere near like where if you were going to read like a John Scalzi, the characters are very rich, they're very live, or even a Tolkien, where Bilbo Baggins and that character inside and out. The character is essential to drive the story. That's not like this at all. I can respect that opinion on like, and for crying out loud, look at this protagonist.
The main character is protagonist. Like,
literally the character's name. He doesn't have a first name. It's just they don't call him protagonist either, obviously, but it's just you're kind of set in, and you're really set in with the backwards and forwards of Tenet through the eyes of John David Washington as the protagonist. He's the main character, but he's also tied to Neil, Robert Patterson. But you kind of, I'm not going to give anything away about it, but he plays a very important part, and you actually see him in the film throughout the film until you kind of get with the concept and like what's going on, and
Mhm.
you're kind of understanding that
Yeah.
there's sawing action happening
Mhm.
with the forward story and the backward story, and they're kind of meeting, and they meet in the middle, and you kind of put together this and that. But anyway, I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, and to diametrically oppose this, there's his movie The Prestige, which is
Yes,
very much character based movie.
exactly.
That there's the weight of the movies weighed on the emotions of the characters,
Yep.
and you know, I I will always weigh the character driven story higher than the idea based story. So that's
Sure.
why
I
I
think you're
rate
right.
the Prestige higher than Tenet, because this is there's so much juicy emotional content that you could kind of sink your teeth in on this story,
Oh,
that
in
that
spades.
yeah.
In spades. Well,
And mhm,
it's about the rivalry, between the
mhm,
two
right,
magicians.
magicians, yeah. Yeah. And there's like a basic mystery or plot twist within the story, but even if you knew what the plot twist was, which obviously on a second viewing know it already, it's still
Right.
worth watching again because of the emotional weight that the characters have
That that's
within the story.
and that's why I think that what M. Night Shyamalan, just to kind of do a contrast here, is like you can see it. Like once you've seen a few of his movies, more than often than not, I think the average movie viewer can kind of see, oh, that's going to be the surprise. You kind of know, you get used to their pacing, but still, when I watched Prestige and Memento, like going back in the first time, I did not know, because there is a twist, but I think Nolan knows how to hide it better and knows how to spring it on you better than not.
Yeah.
And the same thing is true for Tenet. And for
Mhm.
it's not like, and what we're saying is not giving away anything, because there is like kind of like the other shoe to drop type thing that you look out for. And but I agree with you. Like I didn't know. I was
Yeah.
pleasantly surprised
Yeah.
whenever I've watched a Nolan film, as far as like
Mhm.
outside of Batman and understanding the storylines
Mhm.
and kind of knowing like
Yeah.
what the score
Yeah.
is. I would
Yeah.
agree with that completely. That's
Yeah.
and Interstellar has that too. Inception, same
Mhm.
thing. There's like
Yeah.
that twist,
Yeah.
but
And the fun thing about Memento, I hadn't seen it in over 10 years probably. And
mhm.
um my idea playing with the idea of memory, I'd completely forgot really the movie, and I knew kind of like the basic concept of it. And so going back and watching it again, what I thought it was about and the plot beats in it was completely different than what it actually is. So watching it again was kind of fun, in that I was kind of remembering it for the first time, like he's trying to remember his own story. Um, but yeah, that movie is still a classic.
I
Um,
agree. I agree.
the whole idea and the twist and turns of it. I know there's like a version of it that someone put together that puts everything in chronological order, the whole
Oh,
scenes,
huh.
which I would assume ruins the movie. But yeah,
Yeah, and
that's kind of interesting idea.
it's no wonder to me. Like I kind of, as I get older, you kind of understand your influences and why you like certain things, and why
Hmm.
subconsciously, or why patterns and habits you end up landing on more and more of liking a certain kind of style, I guess. This is
Hmm.
true because he was in, like, his credits include, the storyline for Man of Steel, and I'm a big fan of
Hmm.
that. But there's an author that is very good at doing that, and really the storyline. It's a hard book to follow. Maybe it's not. It should not be somebody's first pick. It's going to be more like once you've kind of been a little bit seasoned and you kind of have your own opinion. I don't know what you like, what you don't like for sci-fi or fantasy or that or even comic books. But Ian M. Banks does a story in use of weapons that is very confusing if you're not. It's very Nolan-esque in its own way. I guess it would be a compliment, but it stands alone on it. But that's one of my all-time favorite sci-fi books, like where it just kind of chucks everything you would normally do with the book out the window and does its own thing. And when that is done very well, you have classics like Memento or Inception or whatever your favorite, I don't know, storyline is. And I think the only thing that I think we haven't really covered is I mentioned it, I didn't say it out loud, but kind of segueing from that Nolan surprise, that non-linear storytelling, and why you would cut that movie up and put it in chronological order is beyond me. But that's that's something I would watch it, but I would probably probably have a chip on my shoulder, and I would be a very good judge of it because I'd be like, no one did it better. You get wrapped up in your own favorite person or author, and you're like, nah, you get in that. But this is like one of his first major films, Insomnia, where he held it down. Totally not one of his. He didn't write the screenplay, so it wasn't his story, but he managed.
Yeah, and I think it's based on a foreign movie as well.
It was a remake. It was based on a remake. I don't know what it was, but I did.
I don't think I've seen the original either.
I have not. Otherwise, we would both know the name of it. But and that would be interesting to kind of track down and on a Sunday afternoon when nothing's going on and finish it up. But Robin Williams, Al Pacino, this was like where Nolan, and I don't think Nolan's ever going to do another comic book movie for the rest of our natural lives. I think he's done that. I think he said so, not definitively, but that's my opinion on him. I don't think he would, but this was like one of the first movies that he did, like where it showed that he could hold down those big names and the storylines, and it's good. I don't think it's the best one, but I don't think it's
it's a solid story. I didn't revisit it recently. I remember seeing it. I think I saw it I think I saw it in the theater, and I really enjoyed it when I first saw it. So it's a solid movie from from what I remember.
I just don't have too much passion to say.
It's not. And I noticed that it said that up at the top that it's on HBO Max. So if you guys want to revisit it, that may be something to do.
Coming in.
I'm one of those few that one of the rare few that doesn't really care Robin Williams. I loved him in Mork and Mindy, and I like him in a couple of movies, but overall, I'm not a real fan of. Not that I have anything against him personally, obviously, but
sure.
But yeah, I'm not really keen on his comedy or whatever. So I'm sure I know I'm in the minority here, but with him in this movie, I really enjoyed him in this movie.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like I do enjoy his comedy, but his comedy is, let's just put it this way. If you've seen Robin Williams at his prime, at his apex, there were some drugs involved. And even if they weren't, he's very animated. He's up, he's all over the stage. Yeah. He's like one of those kind of performers that just tidal wave of energy and mirth that he did. I agree. I have to be in a mood to watch his stand-up or to revisit it. He did do one of his last films was RV. It has nothing to do with comic books or anything, but just while we're talking about it. But what remembers, it's a very fun kind of family movie that was just cute. I'm pretty sure it was one of his last ones. But anyway.
Just as a extra aside, that just kind of a funny story is that my older sister used to work in a music store, and they would get all sorts of stupid stuff for promotions. at one point with the, I guess, the DVD of Mrs. Doubtfire was coming out, and they had a full stand-up of Robin Williams as Mrs. Doubtfire. So no one wanted that once the promotion had ended, so I took it, obviously. So I put it up
the
in
cardboard,
different.
the cardboard kind of sign.
Yeah, a
Okay.
full size cutout of Mrs. Doubtfire, and I'd put it up in various spots in my house, and it would scare various
Yeah,
family members with
and
Robin Williams.
that's awesome. That's a wonderful story. That's true. Yeah, you can still have those and get those at the theater. If you talk to the right person in your local theater, like they throw them, I believe they throw them away unless it's like something special. Unless, I'm pretty sure employees have that's still, you can still do that. Like if you really love, maybe it's something that came down and you just love that, I don't know, that Batman. Maybe you like the Robert Pattinson Batman, and that's just the greatest Batman movie that you've ever seen in your life, and you love that cardboard cutout or whatever. Like I think it's still playing in theaters, but it's probably being close to being done. But who knows? In any case, but yeah, I think the only one that we didn't cover was, we touched on all these. Was Dunkirk, and honestly, there was nothing wrong with this. A lot of people put this at the top of their list. To me, it really showed that war. This is what I love about Nolan. Whatever is going on, the environment, like the war, drives the story. It's brisk. It keeps going. It's terrifying. It's maddening. It's a lot of things. It was very great, and kind of shows you what it's like from that perspective. And again, this is why we're talking about Chris Nolan and not another director for an hour or two.
the only criticism I'll make on this, plus several other of Christopher Nolan movies, which I'm not alone in making this criticism, that the sound mix on home release on his stuff is bad.
Because you can't hear, it's either up here or like down. Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah. That was a criticism of Following too, because I can chunk off Following and say that was one of his first ones.
Right.
So like maybe it's just like not the soundscape isn't great. But I could see that. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Yeah. So every once in a while, if the sound differences is so much, sometimes I'll just throw on the subtitles, so I don't miss out on something.
That's a valid criticism. I'm going to be honest with you, and I have I'm sure I have very, very minor hearing loss from being in the military, and also the own damage that I did for my ears growing up, and headphones and whatever the heck I was listening. But anyway, having like a simple sound bar and maybe a little bit more of a thump to it, it's still like that. That's a plague of modern movies too. It's not just Nolan. It's where things, or if you don't, not everybody in the world has a OLED, infinite contrasting darkness levels that they can friggin' see, right? And not everything is like, not everybody has a 60-inch TV. That's another criticism too, is like where it's just too dark. It's just so dark. You like, it doesn't translate well to the home theater sometimes. Like that's becoming a more, that'll be interesting to see how that comes into play as time goes on. If that's still a thing in 5 years or 10 years, we'll see. But I agree with that. Like there's some movies like they're horrible with the sound. It's like punted up to like 70. It's not quite as bad as was commercial. If you remember back in the day, if you had a TiVo or you recorded commercials on VCR or tape or whatever, the volume levels would be like way up here and then down there, and it's kind of gotten better, but it still hasn't. Having said that, I think that kind of, I aside from like, I really enjoy Nolan, and my top, I said my top 3 or whatever, or top 6 or whatever.
He's one of those. He's one of those artists that are an artist, so to speak, in quotation marks, I guess. Sort of like David Lynch. They have their own idiosyncrasy. I can't even say that word. They're kind of in particular. Like with David Lynch, he's notoriously had that interview where he said that if you're not really watching a movie if you're watching on your phone, which he's since kind of adjusted that that consideration. But with Nolan, he's like very adamant about having his movies released in the theater and not released on streaming services. And he had a big falling out with Warner Brothers over this past year, where Warner Brothers was both releasing stuff in the theater simultaneously on their streaming platform. I don't know if he's going to make another movie with Warner Brothers. So it'll be interesting to see his future, where he goes, and I'm obviously he will have a future with movies, but it'll be kind of interesting see how it goes from here.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he said. I'll have to track it down. If I can, I'll put it in the notes. But I'm pretty sure he said something on the line of like he's not going to do another comic book thing again based on a few things. But and I get that. I don't know that he would add anything to what he's already done.
Mm-hmm.
He's already smashed records, and I'm not.
He's already made his statement.
Yeah, there's no way he's coming back and coming back to, as much as I would love to see another something or other by Nolan. Never say never, but I agree. He's a great friggin' director. He's one of my favorites. Interstellar is in my top list. I'm really bad at giving it a number, but it's in my top 10 for sure. And Tenet is one, like, I'll be honest with you, like, where I'm still in that honeymoon phase of it, even several years later, 2 years later, like I'll still watch it and I'll just enjoy it. Like that is a total that's solely me being a fan and loving it, in spite of whatever.
And with Interstellar, the soundtrack on that is one of my top soundtracks.
Oh, really?
Hans Zimmer,
That's cool.
It's a killer soundtrack.
Yeah, this is just a classic. I don't think we really talked about this, but I guess to kind of put a cap on it is, it's a classic. Not classic. It's a good old science fiction story. It is that, and plus I love it from the standpoint of like being a dad and having kids, and there's a father-daughter storyline there, which I wish was explored more. I think $1 Million Baby, I think, did that a little bit, like not necessarily dad and daughter, but that there's like this bond
between, dynamic.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Put a cap on it, but and it looks like this is available on Prime. Like, I don't know if that's whatever, but I don't know about you, but I'm not going to subscribe to Paramount. I'm not going to subscribe to one more of these streaming things.
Well, I'm one of those physical media guys. I have it on Blu-ray, so I can just pull it off my shelf and take a look at it. But yeah. And
to kind of put a dent in this, I saw this a few years back. Like there's a caught, like, so Matt Damon is one of the a smaller antagonist in Interstellar, and he's kind of trapped out there, and this is kind of breaking it open wider, but somebody did the math on how much it costs to bring Matt Damon home. And I love Matt Damon as an actor, love him in a lot of things, a lot of different storylines, but it was like 900 billion to, like, if you go back to every single movie that Matt Damon needed to be rescued and brought home, it would cost like almost $1 trillion, which I thought was kind of funny. But
it's pretty funny.
But one of those was Interstellar that he was in. He's a great actor. That's just one of those great actors. But anyway, all right. So moving on from that, and I think we have we're about an hour and 10, hour and 15. But if you're game, we have two more topics on our list. What you want to cover? You have enough gas in the tank to cover the series that is newer, and then go into our YouTube recommendations?
Yeah, that'll work.
Cool. Yeah, I was glad I forgot about this. You reminded me of this, and I was looking forward to. This is one of the rare Disney things that I am looking forward to, and that I did enjoy. I don't know about you, but this is your, take it away, please.
All right. Yeah. Well, so it's Moon Knight. He's kind of had a sort of checkered past with Marvel. He's had a two or three, three or four actually series, comic book series, and he's been kind of each time he's been rebooted in comic book series, his characters kind of changed a little bit. I haven't read all of the various incarnations of Moon Knight in the comic books. He's always been one of my favorites. Just his look was always kind of fascinating with me. But basically, the original comic book series, I've recently been reading those, and he started out as a mercenary, Mark Spector, and he in the comic book he kind of branches off into various characters. Like Mark Spector, as a mercenary, had gained a lot of money, so he created this persona of this rich millionaire character called Stephen Grant, and then also in his crime fighting capacity, he created another persona of himself called Jake Loxley. So he was very much aware of his various personalities, and also he created as mercenary Mark Spector. He dies in the Egyptian desert and then comes back to life under the Egyptian god Khonshu, and he doesn't in the comic book to start with. He doesn't have any superpowers. He does seem to have higher strength and higher
super strength and
yeah
super
his
resilient,
yeah
super
his
like the boilerplate BS template
yeah
superhero that has super strength, endurance, yada
yeah
yada. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
when the moon comes out, he has better strength, or yeah, higher strength or whatever.
Right.
But he's very much a kind of a daredevil character in that he relies on his human strength to solve things, and more of a street level kind of character. Whereas this new Moon Knight, if you've seen the first episode, he's sort of has this multiple personality where he doesn't
Mm.
know the various personalities that he is,
Right.
which I think obviously creates a more dramatic
Chaotic.
thing for the series. Yeah, for the series, I understand why they do it for the series, and I don't count it against them for doing that, because it obviously makes for higher drama and much more richer storyline to do it that way. But yeah, I really enjoyed the first episode. There seems to be kind of a more emphasis on the supernatural, and like there's one
Yeah.
scene where he becomes Moon Knight like a split second. So I think it's more like a maybe like a symbiote sort of thing going on. But yeah, instead of more of a daredevil naturalistic type character. But yeah.
Yeah,
uh
I would agree. I totally agree. I'm in alignment with you on that. And what I really okay, so I'm not going to hide I have no animosity toward companies and what they make or produce or anything, because we don't do that. I will say the more media out there that is out there, and just talking about volume, there is so much volume. For example, I have still not seen, well, I've seen most of everything, but the more iterations of Marvel that come out on the small screen, it's harder to keep up. And then you ask that natural question: is should I? And this is one where I agree with them. I believe that this is going to be locked to its own thing. This is it. It's not once these 6 episodes are done. That's it. Maybe they might revisit it, but I will say it took me a minute to get into it. Took me a good 10 minutes to get into the role of it,
mhm.
the sway of it. But I was pleasantly surprised as it rolled through. It
Yeah.
holds its own.
Mhm.
It's good. It's a different take on it. They really lean hard into that mental health, uh, personality or something going on with him.
Yeah.
Where that
Yeah, and
it works. It works.
yeah, and the later comic books kind of play with the idea that he's crazy. There's there they kind of goes back and forth between whether or not it's the Kongshu, the Egyptian god, that's making
Right.
him crazy, or if it's like his actual mental health that's causing issues. But I really enjoyed the fact that the series is sort of embracing the whole idea that, you know, he's kind of lost within his own mind, and the perfect actor to do that is Oscar Isaac. I love that actor. He's one of my favorite current actors. I followed him early on in his earlier works, and yeah,
I
he's impressed me every time he's been
yeah.
on screen.
I have not seen one bad role from him in the last several years, like the last decade for sure. And there's a lot of roll up here, like where a lot of these folks overlap, and I won't go into it because like if I wanted to, I could make every single one of our episodes. I could lead it back to a certain property, but I'm not going to. But having said that, stands on its own. He is great. I did note a couple things. As the character, he slowly builds confidence, but man, he takes a pounding. And I'm not giving anything away, major spoilers at all. Nothing the trailer hasn't already. You haven't spoiled anything either. But there is something about how, like, there's a couple folks. There's a certain kind of repeating pattern that likes to yell at him, and it's just interesting. I'll just touch on it as an Easter egg or whatever if you notice that too. I'm not really prepared to explore that concept because we don't really do that here. But I will say that it stands out and it's interesting, and I wonder if that theme or that pattern, if it comes back up, maybe a couple, 2 or 3 times, like I'll bring it up if it's warranted. But I did notice there was a certain pattern that's starting to emerge. That's just interesting. But all it's a slow build, and it's kind of it's brisk. That's why I use that word for to describe something. Like, I think that makes sense. But
the only thing, if I if I could put in one criticism of it, that it does lean heavily into the Marvel comedy or humor aspect of things.
true.
And
I did not pick up on that.
yeah,
That's true.
and the I feel less is more. But yeah, it wasn't so egregious, and it wasn't so the humor did work in it, so it didn't bother me too much. But I wish maybe it wasn't quite as prevalent in the series. It's sort of a darker story in that he's struggling with with his own mind.
Yeah, you definitely get that, and you see him, and the way that I don't think that they could have. I don't think that there's an actor on earth that they could have put in this role that would have been better than Oscar Isaac for sure. And with that being said, it's a definite thumbs up and recommend, and I'm going to keep watching. And so is Thomas.
And he's also considered the Marvel's version of Batman.
Okay.
Because it might not be apparent in the series, which obviously they're probably want to kind of distance themselves from that. But yeah, the in the comic book at one point he's very rich, and he has this mansion, and he also fights crime, and he's sort of like he's clothed in all white as opposed to Batman's all black. But yeah,
I think that's fair, and I think I think in not old, but new. I think that it would be very valid for us to bring up that when we see Batman. I mean, the most recent Batman film. Yeah, there is definitely a dip into more of the David Lynch, I think you would agree with me, but I do. There, much like you like horror, I like films and video and comic books that dip into the psyche or the psychosphere, so to speak. If you were to kind of call it a landscape to build a story around David Lynch, is in that vein. So there's a True Detective. That's one that definitely explores that, and he has a hand in that, obviously. And that is something that I've come to rely upon. That I love that drop. I think that maybe I don't even know what that called as a genre. I'll come a little bit heavy with that next week, maybe, where there's that drop into, just the heaviness of like, am I seeing what is real, or is it whatever? There's a lot of exploration there that is very fascinating to make films around, and I think we're going to be doing a David Lynch one here. pretty soon. But having said that, this is one to check out for sure. It did when I will say this about Disney, regardless of whatever, when they line everything up right and they hit all those marks and they do it to perfection, and they make something that might be great in your opinion, or good, but it doesn't suck. That's for sure. I
think they do
sucks at all.
They do best when they let the creator seek their own vision, whereas I know Disney would probably prefer that things be done paint by numbers, but I think they understand that to get the maximum views, a lot of times they have to give it up to the creator and let them seek their own vision to make an interesting story.
The only thing I would ever criticize on a web page is, what do you see here? You see the credits. You see, and obviously this is just a really off the top. Do you see anywhere where there's a director or the creator in any of this? No, you don't. And and they do that, I think, because creator is Disney, creator is Marvel, not the individual thing. And I don't like that personally, but I just want to call that to point here, like on this is on their website, on their thing, how they're selling you the product. I really wish that they would put that foremost and forefront on a lot of their stuff, but a lot of the stuff is stripped down, commercialized. I think that's what like a lot of people have a gripe with, even 90s Marvel, like where it was like it's too commercialized, like, but that I would be in that vein. I think it's fair criticism to say, if it's so good, why wouldn't they put the director, who had the story play, who had the storyline? I think it does a disservice to those folks who work so hard for that, especially when we interviewed Joe a couple weeks ago.
Absolutely.
But I want, without creators, you have nothing. Without creators, you have nothing. And I think that's the passion that most of our audience can get. And I know for sure you're anyway. With that being said, sorry to wax poetic on that for a second, but going into our final part of our show, like where we jump into our YouTube recommendation. So this is one that I already followed along with, and I'm very curious to see because I saw this, was like, that's great, good content, good entertainment.
I think both our recommendations were both surprised by that we both follow. But Kit Boga, he does a Twitch stream, plus he has a YouTube channel which we're spotlighting right here. But his Twitch stream, he does live, but basically what he does is he antagonizes scammers. Mostly they come from India.
And he doesn't do it in a mean way either. He doesn't toss that up. He doesn't swear them. He takes, like, I don't know. Well, years and years ago, you and I both worked on a help desk, and like some of the frustrations that we had are the fantasies of like talking back to these people like in a certain kind of way. He didn't do that. He takes like how a professional would, and then he dials them in and
so basically you may have gotten these calls where they pretend to be Amazon with a saying that someone's charged something to your account, basically these scams that people call you on, basically tries to take advantage of older people that aren't really savvy on what's actually going on. So
Yep.
so he does a voice modulator that makes him sound like older lady, so to speak. And he his goal is to keep the scammers as long on the phone as possible, to mess with them, and to actually kind of keep them away from calling actual
Yep.
people that would actually try to take their money. So
Yeah.
he tries to see how long he can take on their line. And also, one of the ones that I recently listened to, he actually, one of their scams is transferring money into their own accounts. So he was trying to get the account numbers from those scammers to report it to the banks to get those closed. That was that recent one. He's also the deep fakes technology. He's using
Okay.
that so that um, he pretends like he actually, as an old lady, he forgets and he clicks on the camera so that it shows him as old lady
Right.
on
That's
the
smart.
camera.
Wow. Okay.
to,
Okay.
to convince them that he's actually an older lady. And
That's awesome.
yeah, he's really a funny guy too.
He's entertaining.
The,
Yeah.
he's very entertaining. So if you want to watch him do it live, as he does it, you could watch him on Twitch. But and he goes by Kit Bogan on Twitch, but he does he puts over like kind of smaller put together clips on YouTube, and I believe he uploads some of his full long streams as well.
Yeah.
But
He
yeah,
does.
he mhm,
Yeah. Yeah. He has like what you were saying. He has like characters like avatars that he uses like on the call. And the
uh,
the thing that's new to me is like I haven't watched him in a while, but he'll do like the deep fake thing is new. That's cool to see that he's this is what's great about YouTubers that are active and always working on their craft, like hopefully we are.
mhm, yeah.
They're working on their show. He is
Mhm.
he's awesome.
Yeah, and he's kind of blown up and is doing really well. And his origins his origin story to act like he's a superhero, but his I think his grandmother or one of his older relatives was actually being scammed by someone, and by one of these call things, and that's what inspired him to do this on Twitch, and do this as a channel. And he's made a bunch of success with it. But yeah, he comes from a very pure sentiment in that he wants to protect these older people. And that's one of the things he talks about on his streams is when he talks to his audience. He says, I know you're younger, you know how to see that these are scams, but talk to your mother, talk to your grandmother,
Yep.
tell them about these scams so that they're aware of it. And so he's really about making an awareness about this issue. And he's actually trying to do some good in this world
Yeah, and
towards
he'll
this.
and I might link to it, but he'll do collabs too with other YouTubers, like
Oh
other
yeah.
more tech. This is in the technical sphere, mind you, and I know
Mhm,
you probably watch what you're interested in on the IT
mhm,
side or tech side, and I do too. But I have seen him do collabs like where these dudes that know how to like hack into the call center, and they'll actually
mhm,
be able to get a live feed of the call
mhm.
center of the
Yeah.
scammers doing what they do. And I know
Yeah.
I I've actually played some of this with my kiddos, and we watched it, and they're like, yeah, let's get back at the scammer, yeah, like it's kind of a funny modern day thing that we have to deal
Mhm.
with as
Yeah.
parents and as adults and as
Mhm,
a nuisance. And
mhm.
it's awesome that I'm glad that somebody could make entertainment around getting them back.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the key thing is he's very entertaining.
Yeah, he is not a filthy. He's not
No.
Jerky Boys. He's not,
No.
getting. If
No.
anybody remembers that, I might
Right.
be showing my age a little bit,
Right.
but that's okay.
Mhm.
Jerky Boys and getting up
Yeah.
there and like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a different that's a different
Yeah.
angry. Maybe one of these days if we can weave it in,
Yeah.
like maybe anyway. But no,
Yeah,
I agree.
he's very PG towards G actually.
Yeah, he is. He
He's
is. He
uh,
keeps it. He keeps it in the
yeah.
lines. Like you could
Yeah.
easily pull this up in church or temple or a
Yeah.
school day, and nothing is going to be untoward.
Mhm.
Now,
Yeah.
he actually learned how to cuss, or he learned the cuss words like from Bengali, I think is the language they speak. That he does, and I think I can't think of the cuss word, but it escapes me. But it
Yeah.
comes up here once in a while. It's butthead is essentially the G version of what.
All
Not
right.
that, but whatever. Anyway, going on. That's a good one. It's a good one. I
Yeah.
like that. And then
All
the other one I had. Unless there's anything else you wanted to add.
No, that's yeah.
Yeah. The going into this, like this, I found this guy like maybe a couple years ago, maybe 2 or 3 at the most. But
Mhm.
he basically his spiel is that he will find famous memes or videos of famous YouTubers that were either a one-off or a series, and he will revisit that story. And basically down the line, he is very basic journalist 101. He'll tell you the setup of like why this person or YouTuber channel or this phenomenon is famous, and then he'll drive into the story. He's just very good at what he does. He
Mhm.
lays it out as he'll open it up. He'll a lot of these he'll have in the can for weeks or months at a time, and he'll try to reach out to the person and bring them on. Sometimes he'll be successful. I'll be honest with you. Sometimes the people that he finds, and he'll give them a decent amount of time for their say. Sometimes he'll drone on, and I'll be honest with you, I'm going to scrub through that. Like I really don't care about that, what they have to say, but it's interesting to kind of catch up on what happened to.
Mhm.
And there's another YouTuber here that might be a little bit more geared toward this, but will drive hard into the more non-rated side of the house. But his is pretty much, down the line. I wouldn't say, I definitely say there's R there sometimes, or PG,
Mhm.
or,
Yeah,
or young 13, or
yeah.
PG for whatever the new PG 13 is, whatever. But for sure,
Yeah, yeah, you brought him up, and yeah, he's one of those that I've followed for a few years now, and yeah, he kind of leans toward the feel good stories, or at
yeah,
least the the stories that everybody's kind of interested in. He kind of goes through and um like you said, he goes through various internet celebrities or memes that have been put out through the years, and kind of goes through and he tries to see if he can find them, and kind of kind of brings it all together to a nice little story. Um, but yeah, he and he's really good at researching the stories. It really feels like when you're watching one of his videos that he's researched it to the nth degree, that there's probably nothing else to to find about the story.
yeah.
um
And without regard to, I think this is a more of a newer trend. There's and I can't remember the creator's name for the life of me, but I was trying to think of this guy's name, like one of our shows. I just couldn't grab it right away. But there's another one that has reinvented himself, and I don't want to go into content about what they've created, but they pivoted to do more of this docu-series kind of thing. In the newspaper world, we would call these type things of these characters and these people, this would be like a personality feature where it's evergreen. You can literally dump it at any, it's not tied to a current event or to a time on the timeline. Literally any one of these you can go through, and that's kind of how YouTube. he knows what he's doing as far as making his videos stick out, because it doesn't matter if you watch one of his videos 3 years ago or nowadays, aside from like evolvement he has done as a creator to make the quality of his videos better.
Right.
There's definitely this never-ending parade. This is one that you have to be careful with, because you'll get sucked into the rabbit hole and you'll be like, oh, where'd the time go?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But I remember the name of the creator that I'm talking about, but that's a newer thing. But the person I'm thinking of, and I know you're going to say it right after we get off this, is more controversial in that space, and maybe there's time there, but probably not. But this one is good. Like, if you ever wanted to know the communist kid, that's the last one that I watched. Like, this kid that was 10 years old, and like he had this famous video of why he thought communism was the best thing ever, and then it kind of goes into that, and then you kind of see the evolution of the creator and like what happened to him. Sometimes I like his stuff too, because just like a personality feature, the whole point of a personality feature is to drill down into the person. What kind of a person are they? What kind of a human are they? The human condition, that kind of thing, yada yada yada. That's why people love to read about creators and whatnot, and see what happened to these people, what happened.
One of the ones that I liked recently they did was the Pokemon Go kid.
Okay.
That horrible song, Pokemon Go. But he kind of did a deep dive into who he was and who he is now, and
that's awesome.
It was very interesting. But he goes through and finds the various memes that was sort of like everybody kind of latched on to for a couple minutes and had a laugh, but then forgot about. So he kind of like goes back and like sort of like, where are they now? Or sort of like the old VH1 thing.
That's true. Like pop-up video and all that. I'm surprised they haven't made that remake. Like I'm not gonna lie. Back in the day when I had cable and pop-up video, I would, no matter what I was doing, if I was in that mode of like, I don't know what I want to watch and it was on, I would sit there and, I didn't know that about that. You know, you little fun facts like nerd. And that's why we're covering it, because it's part of Nerdom. But in any case, that really wraps up what I had and what you had. And I just want to like, we started the show with our channel, you know. I would say this is probably the first time that we're doing this, like plugging it really hard. But I would say to kind of copy from other YouTube creators that I like and I adore, you know, please, if you like and subscribe or share our stuff out. I don't know what's going on. We're still new to this, but we'll go up to several dozen views, and then all of a sudden, like 2 or 3 or 4 days later, it'll cut it right down to a more reasonable real world thing, and that's fine. But if you could help us feed the algorithm god, the gods that be, I would appreciate that sacrifice, whether you liked it or hated it. We're both getting better at our oratory skills for sure.
And if you've made it this far, bless you, because that helps us a lot, because watching a full video of us is definitely helps us as far as views and everything. And we love doing this. We'll keep on doing this, you know. But we love and appreciate your support, and like Mike said, like and subscribe, and we'll keep doing this, man.
But there's going to be a lot of this is a passion for both of us. We love to do this every show, you know, and just like we're going to have our rainy nights, our dark nights, like Batman. But maybe you can help us throw on the cowl of Batman and put on our mask. Keep doing this, by all means. But in any case, I'm Mike Shaw.
Yep. And I'm Mike. I'm not Mike. You're Mike. I'm up among the buildings, among the gargoyles with Batman. But yeah,
that's another good one. We should cover the Gargoyles animated series. Like that's one that gets no play, but I love. But anyway, so this has been the first to last of Nerdom, and we'll be back at you next week with 100% pure cut comic book goodness.
See.
All right.